Okay guys, so if you are new here, my name is Candy and I'm a mom to 5. On my channel, I share a whole lot of things from homeschooling and homesteading, gardening, day in life, what's for dinner, canning, grocery hauls, just chatty videos like this one, all kinds of stuff on my channel. So if you are not already a subscriber, I would love if you would subscribe. Stick around, check out some more videos after this one. So I've already shared with you guys a part 1 video, and it is live today about various ways to homeschool and keep your budget low or your cost even at 0. We touched on several different things. I did mention that if you wanted to splurge on something, and it were, in my opinion, a splurge would be to buy a good printer. If that's like the one thing, if I was going to splurge on one thing, it would be a good printer. But then we also talked about various websites, apps, and ways to homeschool for free from the library. But I just kind of wanted to finish out our chat, but I didn't want the video to be too excessively long. So I'm coming back here for a part 2 to kind of reiterate the things that I had already mentioned, and then I have a few other things that I kind of skimmed over that I kind of wanted to touch bases with you guys on. So again, if you can afford a curriculum, then definitely, look for your curriculum, but keep in mind that there are options for used curriculum out there. We have a place called, well, it's not the Book Shack now, but I can't think of what they changed the name of it to. But it was called the Book Shack, and you could pay $10 in a year, and you could take anything that you wanted from there, but you had to sign something saying that you wouldn't resell it, and that when you were finished with it, you would dispose of it or return it to them if it hadn't been used. So that was an option that we had. But you can also buy used curriculum lots of places. I've bought several books for my kids off of thrift books. That is where my son's science books came from this year. That is where I got our Teach Your Child to Read in 20 Easy Lessons. I got that one for my sister and myself from thrift books. But there's also free curriculums out there like Plain Not So Plain. There is The Good and the Beautiful. There is online curriculums like the Kahn Academy, the Easy Peasy, things like that. I mean, there is a plethora of curriculums out there. If you have the time and you want to, you could also save yourself an excessive amount of money by making your own curriculum. You can go to the library, you can check out books on whatever the subject is. I think we talked about in the other video, I mentioned frogs or butterflies. So if you go and you pick out a bunch of books on that subject from the library, you can build your own curriculum. And I've done that. And in the past, when I didn't have a printer, I sat there and I wrote out assignments for all of my kids, my 3 older kids. And I mean, I went over everything with them. But like I would read all the books before my kids. I would make up worksheets for them and stuff. And then we would read through the books together. They would do the worksheets, and it is possible. And I mean, that didn't require a printer. It did require more time on my end because I was not just printing something or taking it out of a book. But that is a free option, and the library is an amazing way to do so without having to purchase every single book. Now, as far as online, there are so many options for things that I think a lot of people don't think of when they first start homeschooling. So I'm going to read off some off of my little list over here that are just a few options. The first one, actually, hold on, I'm going to sneeze. Okay, I'm back, but I kind of want to touch bases on a few of these different websites and things because they are educational, but they're not things that people normally would think of as a option for homeschooling or something that they could use in their homeschooling. So I'm going to touch bases on a few of the ones that I wrote down and kind of tell you guys these in case you hadn't considered them. Okay, so there's NASA. They often do live streams of them building things or live streams from space, different things like that. So that is an awesome option. There's zooniverse.org. Then there is Smithsonian, there's PBS Education, there's Google Earth, there's YouTube. Also, in terms of YouTube, we use Art Hub for Kids, or Art for Kids Hub, that's what it is. We use that pretty often at night when the kids are winding down for the evening. If we don't read on our read aloud and things at night, I will set up our YouTube Art for Kids Hub on our TV. All the kids will get blankets and lay down on the floor with crayons, colored pencils, markers, things like that. And they will do several different drawing things through that channel, because it's really neat. It's really easy and simple for kids to pick up and learn from. And it's a really neat YouTube channel. So I do want to share that. And then also, anytime we use Homeschool Share to do a lap book or a unit study, what I will do is, after we finish our lap book or our unit study, again, I will connect our YouTube on the TV and I will search on there, like say we're doing a eagle unit study. I will go on there and I will do like live feed eagle nest, and I will play that on the TV all day long. And as the kids work or come in and out from playing, they'll stop and they'll watch the eagle on their nest, or the babies hatching, or the mama feeding the babies, or cleaning her babies up, or whatever. And it's just kind of a neat way to add just like a more visual element to their education. We've watched a volcano eruption, we've watched the eagles, we've watched a coral reef live feed. We watched one that was in the jungle. I can't remember what it was called. But there are just a billion different live feeds. Just any type of unit study that I print them from Homeschool Share, I always go to YouTube and find them a live feed. I've not ever struck out on finding one. The live feed might be kind of boring at the time we're watching. It might just be the eagle sitting on her nest for a week. But then a week later, as we're learning something else, the kids might say, "Mom, do you think that eagle ever hatched her nest?" And we'll pull it up and we'll check. And if it's getting close to time, then I'll leave that on for a few days at a time. And we'll just keep going back and checking the live feed to see how the mother is doing or whatever. But I just really kind of wanted to touch on that. And then also another thing that is really helpful in homeschooling is to have your kids work together on things that are not only a group project, but also multi-subject. So something that we do often in the winter time, not so much in the summer, just because we're so busy with the garden and co-op and church and school, and like it's just too much if we add it in. But during the winter, when we don't have the garden and additional things going on so often, we will do a homeschool newspaper together. I will have my oldest be the editor, but he will also help write some articles. And then one kid will take pictures each week for the newspaper. They take turns. And so, like 1 week, CJ's job might be to do the country. And so he'll write a news article about a country. And Mika's might be to write a news article about an animal, whether it's endangered or, you know, out of its environment, or it's, you know, just maybe she just wants to talk about giraffes because giraffes are her favorite. And then maybe one kid will write about things that have been happening locally within our state. One kid might just add like a photography page and just go take pictures of flowers and trees and animals and their siblings. You know, and one kid might just do, I don't know, like family updates, like maybe what's grandma up to, or, you know, how's Papa been feeling, or just things like that. Or upcoming events might be, you know, we have co-op on this day and we're going on a field trip to a dairy farm. We're so excited. And then the week after, they might do a newspaper and it might show like pictures from the dairy farm and a follow-up. But I do have my kids switch positions within the week so that one kid isn't always writing about countries. Maybe that kid's going to switch about animals the next week or what have you, because then your kids are getting, they're getting English, because like as far as language arts and grammar and spelling and typing and just all of that for their newspaper, they're getting all of that. And then they're getting research. They are getting science from doing things like animals or, just weather or whatever it is they're going to write about. They're getting history, they're getting current events, they're getting geography, they're getting art, like with the photography and things. Just It's just like a huge way to circle many subjects at once. I've had CJ even like make up a faux grocery ad, and he just took pictures off of Google of different items and he listed them in there like a grocery ad and wrote like 2 for $1 or $6.99 or what have you. And from that, I had all of my kids take their little grocery ad out of their newspaper, and I told them, okay, you have $50 to buy your groceries this week. What are you going to eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner this week? And that was really fun, and that incorporated math and finance and kind of figuring out like home economics. And so that adds another fun element to it. But I absolutely would encourage, if you have the time in your day with your kids and you want to do something like that, a family newspaper is an amazing way to work extra things into your education and, like I said, touch on a lot of subjects. And also, if maybe you're unschoolers, which we have done in the past, that is again a good way to add all of those subjects into one thing in a fun way for your kids. And it's something that they'll want to do. It's not sitting down at a book all day. They're learning how to research things. They're learning how to follow their interest on the subject that they're given for the newspaper. And then, like I said, with the grocery thing, if you add your grocery ad in there, you can add math right in, and you've basically covered your whole rounded education into one thing. There have been busy times in our life where we didn't do any book work, and like my husband had just had a bypass, and I was working 2 different nights a week where I was going in at like 8 or 9 at night and staying till 2 or 3 in the morning and stocking a grocery store, because it was mid like when the COVID pandemic was really at its height and people were buying everything in the store. And because my husband wasn't working, it was the only income we had, and I was able to go do that 2 nights a week, make about $100 a week, which was more than we had. And I could put that towards gas in the car for doctor's appointments or groceries or whatever it was that we needed, because we were really, really struggling and things were really tight. And I could do that 2 nights a week, and I wasn't scrambling to figure out what are the kids going to learn tomorrow, because I knew we were going to work on our newspaper. And during that time, our newspaper went from being like 2 or 3 pages to like 8 pages, because I was just doing that and read alouds with kids. So we would read the Bible, we would read Story of the World, and we would do a read aloud. But then that was it, the newspaper. And like I said, if one kid's writing about current events, one's writing about animals, one's writing about a volcano, one's writing about, who's going to be the president or who, whatever, or taking a poll among their siblings about who's going to be the president or the governor or mayor or whatever's going on, as far as the government in your area, and what's going on in Iraq, what's going on in China, what's going on in Mexico, what's going on in Canada, what's this celebrity doing today, what movies are coming out, are you excited for these movies coming out, photography pages. It really added up to a very well-rounded education, and the kids had so much fun with it, because it was more than just looking at books. It was more than just repeating and doing the same lessons over and over until they memorize them. It was something fun, and it was something that they got to seek out the answers that they wanted, and they got to voice their opinions and, you know, hold discussions. And if somebody disagreed, I would tell them, well, write a letter to the editor, and the editor, which is my oldest, would put it into the newspaper, and he'd say, like, letter to the editor, and that would be a section of their newspaper. And it was very fun, and it was very creative, and my kids really found it to be a very good outlet during a very hectic time in life. And because of COVID, and my daughter and my son, they're both autoimmune, and we were very stranded at home. Our church was closed because of COVID, and they were just doing live streams, so we had that. We didn't have co-op. I had 2 autoimmune kids at home. I had a husband that had just had a quadruple bypass. I was leaving after their bedtime to go unload semis at the store, and then I was coming in the middle of the night, taking a shower, trying to make sure I didn't get any type of germs or sickness that I was going to bring to my kids or my husband. And like, that was it. There was no leaving home. And so for the kids, it really gave them an outlet that really worked for us. And it is something that we haven't done in a while, but I plan on bringing back around November, December. I think we'll kind of bring it back with like some holiday editions, you know, what's going on with Thanksgiving and the holidays and fall and weather. And I think that we'll kind of start doing that, but we will do more of like a 2-page or 3-page newspaper, so that not everybody's overwhelmed with trying to keep up with curriculum, because we are using curriculum this year. Speaking of curriculum, if you plan ahead and you buy things off season, you can buy things cheaper than what you would buy them if you bought them in July or August right before the school year. For instance, I mentioned in the previous video that we are using Brain Quest this year for 4 of my kids. And when I purchased the books, I looked at them last August and they were $12.99 a piece. I looked at them again in May and they were $6 a piece. So I hurried up and bought them. And I just went back on a whim in July to look at them, and they were back up and they were like 13 a piece. And now they've dropped back down to 12 a piece. And I know that there are a lot of curriculums that offer sales and discounts and things at certain times of the year, whether it be the beginning of the school year or the middle of the year when nobody's really buying it. But keeping your eye out and ready and available to catch those things when it's an option is a huge help. And again, using the internet, I'm not big on my kids sitting on apps, but there are things like the Khan Academy, the Easy Peasy, you know, there are free apps that work. It's just not something that I like adding in, but I do have friends whose kids only do online. And I think whatever works for your family works for your family. So if the option's out there and it's what works, I would absolutely, definitely do it. I do feel like, because we do a lot of the live streams and stuff, and we use Varsity Tutors, which is another one, you can sign up and take free classes through Varsity Tutors. They do have some you have to pay for, and they have some that are free, but Varsity Tutors is a really neat one. We just signed up this morning for one about the T-Rex, what's her name, Sue? And the kids will be doing that one, I think it's tomorrow, or maybe it's Monday. I'll have to look, but Varsity Tutors, we do that. We do get on PBS, Smithsonian, Google Earth, YouTube, live streams, you know, things like that. We do take advantage of a lot of those. So because we use a lot of those live feeds and streams and educational videos, the Art for Kids, I don't add the extra of adding apps and things. A few of my kids have tablets, but I limit them to 30 minutes a day on them because, again, I just feel like I don't want my kids to live in front of a screen. And so I'll tell them they can spend 30 minutes a day on it. And one of my kids does love Khan Academy, and she plays on it all the time, but she plays on it for fun, not for educational, but it is educational. So again, those are options that are out there. And there are lower cost options as well for apps. And again, the newspaper, it's just a fun, educational, and kind of very open way to work with your kids. And then I also, in the previous video, I listed several websites like Plain Not So Plain, where you can print free curriculum or buy it from her off Amazon. There is Thrift Books, where you can get discounted books. There's Crayola.com, which they're awesome. A lot of people don't know that they have the free color pages, but you can go in there, print maps and color pages and state flags, state trees, state flowers, state birds, just color pages, dot to dots, color by numbers, all kinds of fun stuff. So that's also an option. That why can't I ever remember this? DTLK or DLTK Kids. I love them too. I print a lot of stuff off there for my preschooler, and I print a lot of Bible stories off there for my kids. But I could never remember the order of their name of their website. But I also listed that, and I will relist all of these, plus a few that I mentioned today, in the description box of this. But I just wanted to come back on here and make sure you guys knew there was options for free or low cost homeschooling, because it's such an important thing that if you feel driven and you feel like that you're called to homeschool your kids, that you know there are options that don't cost you tons of money. Something else we talked about in the previous video was using your library for books and developing your own curriculum to free classes and things they have there. I think that if you want to homeschool, you should definitely go to your library, find out who you need to talk to, who is an advocate for homeschoolers and home education, and say, you know, here's my kids' ages. Do you have any recommendations of classes or things that are coming up, or things that I need to sign up for that are free for my children? And there is usually at least one person there who will jump to help you in any way possible and will be such an amazing help for your family. Okay, so I think that's about everything I wanted to chat with you guys about. I just kind of knew in the last video that I had kind of skipped over things on my little list I had over here, and I wanted to make sure that I came back and touched on those and maybe got a little bit deeper into some of the things I mentioned in the first video. So I hope this video was helpful for you guys. Okay, so I have a little list over here, and I just kind of wanted to go through and kind of talk a little bit deeper on some of those subjects, as well as touch on some that I had missed in the previous video. So I believe that's everything I wanted to chat with you guys about, but I just wanted you to know that if you feel like homeschooling is something that is meant for your family, that you know there are options and there are ways to do things cheaply, frugally, or even for free. And I hope that the part 1 and part 2 of this video are helpful to you and your family, and that there's something that maybe you can take from these videos. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys soon with another new video. Bye.